Kate Clark. I'm the executive director of the NFHCA. We are joined by some great folks here. Chrissy Chappell is my colleague with the NFHCA. So, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining. This is being recorded and will be available on our website here in a few days. I want to just quickly introduce our great speakers and I will turn it over to them. We are joined today by none other than the co hosts of the Pitch Session podcast. If you're not a fan, please become one. It's a great field hockey podcast throughout the season. Kirsten Gebhardt has done just about everything when it comes to field hockey. Not only was she a student athlete, she was a Division I collegiate coach. She also has been a commentator and umpire, and has done many things field hockey, including working for the NFHCA. So glad to be joined by Kirsten and her co-host, Andrew Bashuk. He's a sports administrator, a marketing whiz, has filled many marketing and sports roles, games op at multiple Division I institutions, served as the voice of George Mason University baseball. He's also the co-host of Pitch Session, and he's looking forward to enlightening us today. And then finally, our expert umpire on the call, Mallory Fedoroff. She is a current NCAA umpire. She was also the recipient of the 2021 USA Field Hockey Umpire Award. She's a former Penn State Field Hockey All-American and a current CEO of Upswing Clinics, which caters to all level of field hockey skill and interest. So I will turn it over to Kirsten, Andrew, and Mallory. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for that introduction, Kate. That actually makes this a little bit easier on us so that we don't have to do that. We'll save some time on the intro slide. But welcome to Field Hockey 101. I'm sure many people are coming here from different avenues. Maybe you were told to do it because you're broadcasting some games this year or you're just curious, but we appreciate that you're here. We really designed this webinar to introduce what can seem like sometimes a complicated sport to the people who are talking about it on air this year. So hopefully we'll sort of demystify some things and make it a little bit simpler so that you feel confident going into the season. What we're going to do today, so our agenda for the webinar, we'll quickly introduce ourselves. We'll talk about the game format, personnel on the field, what the field of play looks like and what all the different lines mean. We'll briefly cover some skills and terminology, and then Mal will help us understand the rules of the game, including what signals look like. We'll talk about cards and video reviews. I will cover penalty corners and sort of break those down so it's a little bit more understandable. And then we'll cover 11 things that set field hockey apart, a really short list of do's and don'ts. Nobody likes to be told what to do, but so it'll be short. And then we'll finish with Q&A. So we'll try to leave about 10 to 15 minutes at the end. So if you have questions, please save them to the end unless you have a burning question about the thing we are currently talking about or you want some clarification, then just throw it in the chat and we will try to address it. And just a couple notes. So this is 101. We're really trying to cover sort of the basic rules of the game. Tomorrow, we will be doing Field Hockey 201, which is a bit more of an advanced look at sort of the tactics and some more complex rules. So you're welcome to join us there. You can register through the NFHCA for that. Both of these will be recorded, so you'll be able to revisit them later. And we also have a quick reference guide or like a toolkit. It's 3 pages you can print out and should be a helpful guide for you while you're calling the game that just has brief overview about some of the things you'll probably encounter when you're broadcasting. So those are all available to you, and we could probably grab the link for that and throw it in the chat for everyone. But since Kate did such a great job, I will not add too much, but I'm Kirsten, and I am a co-host of the podcast Pitch Session with Andrew Bashuk. Andrew,
Kirsten,
say hello to the people.
hello.
Hello, Mallory.
Yeah,
Good. You said hello.
I did.
Mallory, would you like to say hello to everyone?
Hello, guys.
We're really excited. Mal is such a big addition to this webinar because we got a lot of rules questions last year, which I would say we were fairly confident in responding to, but this year we're going to be really confident because we don't have to say them and Mal will.
We have a real authority.
Yes. And Mal, what are your first games this year?
I have a scrimmage at Penn State on the 18th, and then I open up opening weekend at Ohio State.
So she's the real deal, everyone. You'll see her on the TV, I am sure. And yeah, Andrew and I, so we'll talk about pitch session. Our first episode just dropped like last week, right, Andrew?
Last Wednesday, first of the season,
That's
season
right.
4.
Our senior year.
Yes. So yeah, we started our 4th season last year or last week. We come out once a week during the hockey season, starting now through the end of the Final Four in December. We close the year every year with the Pitchies, our very fancy award show that I highly recommend. So we're actually going to do one tomorrow. We're going to cover the World Cup, which is starting this weekend. But we're around every week. And then, of course, there's the NFHCA, which Kirsten worked for how long? 3 years? 4 years?
4 to 5 years.
Yeah.
Great time.
So yeah, shall we?
Yeah, I was just gonna say National Field Hockey Coaches Association, it's in the name. They do all the stuff. So they're the organization you'll go to hear about the coaches polls. There's another poll. There's a people's poll that Pitch Session puts out. But the official poll, the coaches poll is put out by the NFHCA. They do all the awards. They also have a great website, NFHCA.org, or webpage, NFHCA.org/SID help, where you can go to find all kinds of information you need, nomination calendars, recordings to this, our toolkit, and some links to some other helpful stuff. So if you have a question about communications, that's where you go. And they're always very helpful and responsive. So keep an eye on the NFHCA throughout the season.
And we like their poll too. We just like ours more.
Yeah.
So format of the game, we'll start with, again, for folks who are new, field hockey in the United States is played in 4 15-minute quarters. There's 2-minute breaks between the first and second and third and fourth quarters, plus a 10-minute overtime. The overtime or halftime. Sorry, the halftime begins. It's supposed to begin as soon as the second quarter ends. It's supposed to be pretty instantaneous, and the game is played 11 on 11. And if it's tied after 60 minutes, we have new rules this year for Division One. So there is now in Division One only one 15-minute overtime period played 11 on 11, and it is sudden victory, as the NCAA would like us to call it. Sudden death, if you prefer that. Division 2 and 3 will continue to play what it has been for Division 1, and that is 2 10-minute periods, also with sudden victory, and they drop down to 7 on 7. So that's 6 field players and the goalkeeper. So that's a new thing for Division 1 this year, going to the more traditional format, keeping everyone on the field and only doing one 15-minute overtime. First goal wins. If nobody scores in overtime in either format, whether the 15-minute in Division 1 or 20 minutes in Division 2, we go to a shootout. And one of the first things to know is it is a shootout. It is not penalty strokes. Penalty stroke we'll get to later. That is field hockey's version of a penalty shot, but it is a stroke. And how long is shootouts? We had like 5 or 8 years now.
It's been a bit.
It used to, so Phil, we used to do strokes for overtime, and so there's a vestige of that people still call them strokes in the shootout, but they're not. It's a shootout. 5 shooters, just like in soccer, and whoever has the most goals after 5 wins. If it's still tied, you do a second round going 1 1 1 1 1 1, and third round so on and so forth if we need to break the tie. In NCAA field hockey, again, we're going to have different rules in Division One. We'll see what happens. About a third of the games that went to overtime in the 2 10-minute format went to a shootout. So it happens generally over the course of a Division One season or a college season. A team will end up in shootouts once or twice. Every now and then someone will go the whole season without it, and someone may have 6 or 7. But generally, you're going to see it once, twice, 3 times during the season. About a third of games go to overtime, and about a third of those go to a shootout. So,
you want to talk about substitutions?
Yes, I do very much. So one thing about substitutions in hockey, it's rolling substitutions. You can make them whenever they can be done. It's not like soccer where once you're out forever. You can come in, come out. Teams mostly are going to rotate their forwards and their midfielders. Generally, your defenders, whether it's 3 in the back or 4 in the back, are going to play the whole game. Rarely does a defender, certainly a strong defender, is going to play all 60 minutes. But the rolling subs happen because your forwards and midfielders do most of the running, and they want to keep them fresh, their legs fresh. So you're going to see that. As far as the clock, we did that, right?
Yeah.
15
Let's talk
minutes.
about penalty corners and
Yeah.
time.
So penalty corner is the most important thing about a penalty corner. If you don't know what a penalty corner is, we'll get to it in a minute. But penalty corner time cannot expire in a penalty corner. So what that means is, let's say the defensive team commits an infraction with 8 seconds left in the quarter, half, game, whatever it is. The offensive team will be given the opportunity to complete their penalty corner. The clock will hit 0, the horn will go off, but no one on the field will pay attention to it. The game will continue through the horn. And they play until the completion of the penalty corner, meaning either they score a goal or the defense sends the ball out and the chance is over. If the defense commits an infraction during the penalty corner, which leads to a repeat penalty corner, they get to do that. We could do, in theory, infinite penalty corners with 0 on the clock until someone scores or the defense makes a stop. So it's important to understand that if you're broadcasting a game for the first time or you're new at this, and a team, inserts the ball in a penalty corner with 6 seconds left, they're not in any hurry. It's not like basketball where you got to run, a quick last second play. You get to play it out. And again, it's important to understand the horn will sound. The clock will hit 0, and the people on the field will not flinch. People in the stands will. They'll be confused. But it's important, if you're broadcasting the game, to understand that the corner gets to go until completion.
So, talking about personnel on the field. So, we're going to cover players, coaches, umpires, and sort of the table. So, this is a general lineup you'll see on the field. And these are the positions that we use in field hockey. So, in pink, our goalkeeper, there's one of them on the field. You have to play with 11 players. One of them can be a goalkeeper. So, you may see times when a goalkeeper gets pulled, but most of the times they will be back there in the circle. The blue there is our defenders. We can also call them backs. And that really varies between 3 in the back, where sometimes there'll be 4 defenders. In this scenario, our orange, there are midfielders. Sometimes people call them middies. That's also acceptable. And then the top in the yellow, strikers or forwards. So in field hockey, and especially at the levels that you all will be covering, the players in the spine tend to be the strongest players on the field. So your center back, your 2 center middies, and your center striker, those really sort of make up the strength of the team. And in field hockey, right side, because of the nature of the way that we hold our sticks, is sort of the side that we naturally tend to attack on. So you'll see faster players on the right, and then on the left, because of the way that our sticks are structured, that also tends to be sort of a more defensive side. So sometimes you'll see more defensively minded players on the left. And this is sort of a different view of it. You can kind of see how it gets laid out in play. So you can see your 3 backfielders, people interspersed throughout the midfield, and then your forwards higher up on the field. And we did want to quickly cover equipment and sort of what these things look like. So the stick, we get this question a lot. The left hand is always, I'll say always with a caveat, is at the top of the stick. Our stick has a curved side and a flat side. You can only play with the flat side of your stick in field hockey. So unlike ice hockey, where you see them bringing their stick up and over the puck, we actually have to turn our stick over to ensure that we're only touching it with the flat side of our stick. So you can really see that in this photo here. Left hand at the top, and there is a very small fraction of players that we are starting to see that play with their right hand at the top, and people like to call them left-handed players. So it's all sort of backwards for them. There's a handful of them in Division 3, 1 or 2 in Division 1, but the same rules apply. They can only use the flat side of their stick. And players must wear shin guards. They must wear a mouth guard, and this is a pretty typical kit for a field player. Here up top, you can see the goalkeeper. Again, really typical kit. Their leg guards are the tall pads at the top. The ones on their feet are called kickers. They also have a stick, and they also can only play with the flat side of their stick, and obviously have a helmet and all kinds of other pads on there. Other equipment you'll see throughout the game are these penalty corner masks. So this has become really typical in the sport for a defensive penalty corner. Players will wear those masks. They also may wear big gloves, and some players even have sort of knee pads they can pull off. And just to remember is they can play with this equipment while the penalty corner is happening, but as soon as it's over, they must be taken off. So you'll see them chucking them over the end line. They can't play with that equipment on in sort of the open field of play. And then coaches, what do coaches do on the sideline for field hockey? They do a lot of penalty corner calls. That's one of the things that's really important. So you'll see them holding binders. They'll call out numbers. Sometimes they have like cartoons or something, but that's a big part of what they do. They handle substitutions. They're rolling and frequent, so that takes a lot of game management. And then now we're seeing more and more coaches will also monitor heart rate data or GPS data, and at higher levels, programs with more money, they even might have a strength coach that comes on the road with them and monitors that stuff in real time and may inform substitutions. So that's something you might see this season.
Okay, can you guys see my video or because I can't see myself?
Yeah, we can see
Yeah.
you.
Okay, perfect. So in field hockey, there's only 2 on-field umpires, and we have areas of coverage. And so basically, an umpire always wants to be ahead of the play to their circle. So anytime the ball is coming towards you, so if I'm in the bottom right umpire, that shaded pink area is my coverage in my area. So I will go up and down the field and follow the ball, but I always want to be ahead of the play coming towards me. You kind of want to get away from like the lead umpire and the trail umpire. We're now saying you are the engaged umpire, and then you are more of the support umpire. So when the ball's coming at me, I'm the engaged umpire. I'm making the call. When the ball is going away from me and into my partner's area, I'm still helping with off-ball things, stuff that they are not looking at because they're looking at the ball coming in. So I'm looking for off-ball misconduct. I'm looking for a lot of things like that. Almost everybody at all divisions, the umpires are going to be mic'd up. So we do communicate that a lot, which is very, very helpful. So even though it's in my circle, if I get blocked out, my partner is looking off ball, they can help me or I can ask for help. So that's been a really, really helpful tool that almost, I feel, even at the high school level, people are using microphones and walkie-talkies and that. There in postseason, there could also be a third umpire, which would be a video umpire. And if the program has enough money, so a lot of Division Ones, not all, and some Division Threes, they have video review. So the 2 umpires, if there's not a video umpire, will come together, go over to the monitor and make those decisions together. But in postseason, in the NCAA tournament, you will have a video umpire that is only going to be looking at that video. So anything else?
I think that's good. Yep.
Perfect.
And then lastly, the table. Again, this is going to vary depending on the level that you're at, but you're going to have at the very least a couple folks from like the events team, the operations team, manning the table along with some SIDs. The main goals there are to keep track of statistics, to put them into the program to print the box score depending on what your school uses. Most important statistic, shots on goal, penalty corners. A lot of the software that field hockey uses is taken from soccer. And so there are soccer specific things on there that just get ignored, such as fouls and other stuff. You don't need to worry about that. They're managing substitutions. Theoretically, you're supposed to have substitution cards. Most places have them, some don't. The person coming on the field has to swap it out with the person coming off the field. It ensures that everything is a 1-for-1 swap. So that it's always 11 on 11, or I guess 7 on 7 if it's overtime. Some tables are more, what's the right word, are more focused on the cards than others. Some take it very seriously. Some don't have them at all. It's one of those things that until you notice it, you would never notice it. But once you do, if you know, you know. So that's what the table is doing. Just like in every other sport, you're there to help keep the peace and keep control. And just like several other sports, when you get into the postseason, whether it's just a conference tournament, you're typically going to have a third umpire there at the table to take the lead on a lot of that. But in the regular season, your table staff, your SID staff are going to be on their own over there.
And we got one question that we will address in the Q&A, but I did want to remind everybody too, umpires in field hockey will stay on their same sides and the teams will switch sides at halftime. So they kind of get both ends of the field and both umpires. Okay, so the field of play. When you come to a field, these are the things that you're going to see. We have sideline like every sport and end line like every sport. The things that differ are our circle. So the shooting circle is super important in field hockey. You can see that here with the solid line. We call it the shooting circle, or the D. Um, Goals can only be scored when they are touched by an attacker within the penalty circle. So you'll see lots of shots and stuff from inside of the circle, but also remember in terms of an own goal situation, it must be touched by an attacker inside the circle for it to count. The 25-yard line is also really important in field hockey. It really differentiates how people defend penalty corners inside the 25 or outside of it. And Mal will talk about that a little bit later, but just what the 5-yard sort of buffer rule means, whether you're inside or outside of that. The 50 doesn't have a big role to play, but it's there. And then we have the hash, or we call it the broken circle. And this used to play a bigger role a few years ago when it was a place where we took free hits from. But now it serves as a factor in terms of how a penalty corner ends. Once the ball leaves the hash a second time, sort of all of the penalty corner rules fall away and you just sort of play open play. It also is a good guide for umpires to just kind of understand what 5 yards sort of looks like, as just a way to sort of measure as things happen throughout the game. I think that's about it for the hash. Am I missing anything, Mal?
No.
Cool. And then some other markings that you'll see on the field that are important. So these little dash marks here at the bottom of the field, the PC marking. So we'll talk about it in a bit, but the one farthest away, 10 yards away from the edge of the goal cage, is where players will insert the ball for penalty corners. The one just inside, 5 yards away, not as much of a factor, but it is the line that is as far outside of the cage as defensive penalty corners players can go. You won't see many people go out that far, but that's what it's there for. We also have the stroke spot here, so that is where we take penalty strokes from. It's also a really important marker in terms of how attacking players set up their goal scoring positions. So if somebody wants, this is just a really important place for people to occupy when you're playing in the circle. It's a cue that a lot of players and coaches use. It's also important for goalkeepers to sort of understand where they are on the field. So it has a purpose, but it also, we use it sort of to position ourselves in a lot of different ways on the field. And then the 16-yard line is really important. So if you draw a line from this mark on the field, touching the top of the circle and all the way across, that is where if the ball exits the field last touched by an attacker, the way that we restart play is by bringing the ball up to the 16-yard line, exactly in line with where the ball went out, and we'll start what we call an outlet or a 16-yard free hit. So that line is very important. Now there's these other sort of lines that are holdovers from like past rules that we don't really use anymore. So those lower ones don't really play a role anymore, but they're still there on a lot of fields.
If you have a new turf, it won't be there. But if you're playing somewhere that hasn't been updated in 10 or more years, you will see it. It doesn't matter. You can ignore it.
So I just wanted to show some video of what we mean with the 16-yard free hit. So you can see the white team just touch the ball over the end line, and now you'll see the black team start a 16-yard free hit or an outlet directly up the end line from where the ball went out. So again, here, white team was the last person to touch it, and then you see the black team take the ball straight up from where it was in line with the 16-yard free hit and start their outlet. And so the alternative to that and the same thing applies if there's a foul inside of that area. So the same rule, it's a little bit opposite. How do I stop this? Pause. No. I knew that was going to happen. We'll try and get back to where we were. So the alternative to a 16-yard free hit is what we call oh my God, this is going to be a problem, is what we call a long corner. So if the attacking team is the last group to touch the ball before it goes over the end line, or sorry, the defensive team Then you'll see, in this case, the white team take the free hit to bring the ball back into play on the 25-yard line. We're always, always waiting for the ball people, but there we go. So the defensive team was the last one to touch it. The white team is now bringing the ball back in on the 25-yard line. So those are things you're going to see a lot. That really sort of bookends our game all the time. It's 16-yard free hits and long corners happen often. So I won't go through all the skills. There are a lot of them, but we wanted you to sort of understand terminology. And you can use that QR code or visit the SID help page on nfhca.org to see some videos that showcase what these different skills are. But ball control skills, we call it a dribble. There are a bunch of different elimination skills. A reception or a trap are the terms we use when you receive the ball. Our passing skills really vary. So a hit or a sweep, your hands are together and you actually have a backswing. A push is something you'll see a lot with players on the move. Our hands are apart and you're just moving the ball around the field. I highlighted overhead and aerial. This is something that we see a lot more now. It's a big part of our game. So those are those passes that you see go way up an arc over top of players. And there are some rules that come along with that. They're changing a little bit this year. We're hoping that there'll be some more free play and less whistles, but that is a skill that we see a lot more now. Shooting skills, same to passing skills, just a little bit harder. You'll also see a lot of teams try and get into places where they have tips or deflections in those goal scoring positions to really like change the line of the goalkeeper. And what we see a lot now is a reverse pass or a reverse hit. We also used to call it the tomahawk or reverse chip. So that's become a really big part of the game where it's players actually like turn the stick over and are hitting kind of off of their back side. Our defensive skills are tackles, we mark, goalkeeping skills or saves. And then we'll talk about some specialty skills on penalty corners, but you have a lot of players have a specialty skill in penalty corners, something that they do often and practice a lot. I think almost every player will have one that they sort of specialize in. So those are inserts, stick stops, drag flicks, which we're seeing more and more at the Division I level and may trickle down to Division III. It's a skill that's really better served on a flat surface, so a traditional like flat or AstroTurf, and you won't see as much on sort of those long infill turfs. But that's something we'll show a little bit when we cover penalty corners.
All right, so field hockey has a lot of rules, but the biggest thing, and we'll go over a lot of them, but the biggest thing with field hockey that differs a lot in other sports is we play for advantage. And so this is coming right out of the FIH rulebook. This advantage, a penalty is awarded only when a player or team has been disadvantaged by an opponent breaking the rules. So you're not allowed to use your feet in field hockey. But if it hits my foot and it still goes to the other team, as long as they didn't have a disadvantage and they still have the ball, we're going to let that play. So the only time there is a free hit or so we would stop or blow the whistle is when somebody was disadvantaged by something happening. Just kind of going through the little robot figures. So obstruction, you'll see this a lot. It's just the crossing over the chest. And it's basically, you cannot use your body to block out an opponent from trying to play the ball. So you know how like in basketball you can kind of back into people or to create space. You can't do that in field hockey. So you always kind of have to have the ball shown and have the opponent the ability to play the ball. So you can't create your own space with your body. You can't turn around in front of them. So you'll see that a lot. So if somebody like a defender has a nice little tackle and the attacker kind of gets turned around, they're obstructing that defender because the defender has that position now, and now the attacker lost it and they're just obstructing the play. Like we mentioned earlier, so going down, we're going to go under obstruction would be backstick. So again, you can only use the flat side of the stick. So the signal you'll see a lot of times when people are trying to do like a reverse stick hit is you'll see an umpire just kind of go like this, and that's signaling that it hit the back stick of the player and it was a disadvantage to the other team, so it would be a free hit to the other team. Third party, it's the obstruction, but you just kind of do this, you kind of cross ahead. Easiest way to know that is you can't set picks. So I cannot set a pick for somebody that's, dribbling towards me. It's a third party. It's basically using one of your own teammates to obstruct somebody else as you're dribbling. So you can't really set a pick. So that would be third party obstruction. And again, that would be a whistle. It'd be a free hit to the other team where that obstruction happened. Danger, huge. You'll see that a lot in field hockey. And danger, it's only when, so the ball can be raised and it can be hit and it can be accidentally lifted, but danger is when somebody has to have an evasive action and it's dangerous. It's coming up at their face or it was deflected into their face. So danger is just across one hand over your heart and it's danger, and then you would show the direction and the danger and the direction where the play is going to go next. So if I cause the danger, wherever the danger happened, the whistle would blow, the signal, and it would go to the opposite team or the opposite direction. In field hockey, it's very they try to promote a lot of skill. And when defenders are playing you, unlike lacrosse where you can do stick checks and when somebody has the ball, you can try to get the ball from their stick by hitting their stick. Anytime a defender hits somebody's stick when they have possession and they have control of the ball, that would be stick obstruction. So you would see an umpire put their arm down and then use this chopping motion, meaning that the person caused a foul. There was a disadvantage because they hit their stick and they made them lose possession. That can happen and you can hear a lot of sticks happen, but if the offense gets through, even though they got stick obstructed, that's when we would let advantage play. So you would see some fouls happen, but they're looking to see if advantage can be played. And again, you'll see this a lot. The foot, they point down to their foot. Sometimes they touch their foot. If it hits my foot and it goes to the other team, that's their advantage. They can play as long as they have control. If it hits my foot, the play stops or I get the ball, that's where you would hear the whistle and then you would see the umpire give the ball to the free hit to the team that was disadvantaged. Anything? Okay, here's some more. 16. So we kind of already went over that. That's just two arms. Their back's going to be against the baseline. Two arms go out. Long corner, or like she said, they would point out and then they would point up to the 25. So they're saying that it went out over the baseline and to bring it up to the 25. So that would be a long corner. In field hockey, one thing, so we're going across, that's a little bit different than other sports, is we do not whistle when the ball goes out of bounds. Almost every other sport, you'd have a whistle. In field hockey, you just show direction. So if the blue team was the last person that hits it, it goes out of bounds, they would show direction to the white team where the ball crossed over the sideline. So there is no whistle, just the direction. Same with advantage. So like if we see a foul or we see a foot, we'll put our hand up that we saw it and we'll wait to see if there's a disadvantage. If there's not a disadvantage, we are showing that we saw, but we're letting play go. And so we're saying it's going to go this way. And if it doesn't go that way, we'll blow it and reset where the foul had happened. Penalty corner. Let me just see okay. Penalty corner and goal. I'm just going to kind of go side by side there. They're the same motion, but for a penalty corner, you point towards the goal. And if there is a goal, you point towards the 50. So it's the same exact signal, only when there's a penalty corner, you point towards the goal because it's going to be an offensive goal, numbers play advantage. And if a goal is scored, you go from the goal all the way to the 50, pointing that that's a goal. A penalty stroke, like was mentioned earlier, is just one hand to the penalty stroke, one hand up. Time will be stopped for a penalty stroke as well if it happens in a game. A couple different ways you can get a penalty stroke is, say a defender is kind of in on the goal line and there's the goalie's over to their right and it hits their foot. There's a foul that happened in front of the goal that's a probable goal that was going to go in, kind of like a defender in soccer having a handball that was going to go in. That would be a penalty stroke, right? So it hits my foot. If I wasn't there, it would have gone in the goal. That's a penalty stroke. If there is a girl trying to shoot and a defender has a really hard tackle and takes out the attacker, right? And a very intentional foul inside inside the circle or inside that D, an intentional foul inside the circle is a penalty stroke. So those there's a breakaway, or the girl a goalie comes out and the girl tries to go around her and the goalie just takes the girl out, no ball, that's a penalty stroke. So any likely scoring opportunity inside the circle when the defense commits a foul will be a penalty stroke, and time will be stopped. The person that got fouled does not have to take that stroke. It can be anybody. You can sub on a stroke. You cannot sub on a corner. So there's a stroke called in the game. Your best stroker is on the bench. You can sub because time is stopped. You can sub, and that person can take the stroke, and then they can come right back off. So same with goalies. If there's a goalie that's better at taking a penalty stroke and defending a penalty stroke, you can sub goalies on a penalty stroke as well, just not corners.
Yeah, and I would add, for when you're broadcasting a game, I think there's a lot of gamesmanship in goal scoring. So there might be a deflection or the ball was hit outside the circle. Like, teams are always going to celebrate. So as a broadcaster, like, look to the umpire. They're going to be the ones that give you the signal, that gives you information for what to share. If they show goal and they're pointing back to the 50, then you can say it's a goal. But I would not like fully trust the celebrations of the fans or the players to determine whether it's a goal, or to share whether it's a goal or not.
Right. Big thing in field hockey. So anytime there is a foul occurred and there was no advantage being able to play, so there's a free hit. So a free hit is like a self start, or like it's where the foul happened. That's where the ball has to start. In the field of play, no matter where you are on the field, whether you're in front of the 25 or behind it, defense always has to be 5 yards away. They cannot play it. If they are within 5 yards, they can't play it. They can stand there, but they can't interfere with the advantage of the play. So say there's a whistle, I can't play that ball because I'm the one that fouled the girl. You can be there, you just can't play it. Okay, so defense immediately has to be 5 yards away. And if they're not 5 yards away, they can't put pressure on that ball carrier or interfere with the play until they have gone 5 yards or the ball has traveled 5 yards. That's a really big one. So it's hard. So inside the 25, so say I'm an attacking team and I have the ball and there's a foul and I'm in front of my 25, I'm almost at my goal. Everybody has to be 5 yards away. So even my team and the defensive team, everybody has to be 5 yards away. If I'm outside the 25, my own team can be within the 5 yards. So that's just a little bit of a nuance. But rule of thumb, anytime you see an umpire put up the 5, that means defense wasn't 5 yards away, or the ball did not travel 5 yards inside the 25. Is that on this as well? The ball must move 5 yards. Yeah. So the inside the 25, because you're so close to that goal scoring circle, the rules are a little bit more precise and ball placement really matters. So when there's a foul inside the 25, you can't hit the ball directly into the circle. The ball must either be dribbled 5 yards, passed to someone 5 yards away, or moved 5 yards, or touched by a defender before it goes in. So before, when I used to play, you could just nail the ball in no matter where you were, just to try to get it on. Yeah. So, but now, if I have a free hit, even though there might be somebody wide open in the circle, if I'm inside the 25, I either have to dribble, and it doesn't have to be 5 yards one way. It could be 3 yards, 2 yards. It just has to travel 5, or I have to pass it to somebody 5 yards away before it can enter. So a little bit of a safety issue, I think. I think it kind of makes it a little bit more exciting and a little bit more buildup of the play, that you just can't nail the ball in inside the 25. If it's outside the 25, absolutely, they can drive the ball in and look for those tips, because it has to be touched by your own team inside the circle. Anything else? I'm trying to see if there's anything else.
I don't think so, but it's a good transition to the card, because that 5 yard rule that Mal was talking about, especially like defenders being within 5 yards, is really is how we get a lot of green cards. So in field hockey, unlike soccer, cards have consequences. So whenever a card is issued, there is some kind of suspension that comes along with it. So the green card, especially the way the game is played now, you'll see these, almost every game has a couple cards and they're usually green cards. It's a 2 minute suspension. So, the umpire will pull their card out, show the card, and the player will almost immediately just run to the chair because their time starts when their butt hits the seat. But that one comes out a lot of times for a 5 yard infraction, whether for where a free hit's being taken or maybe for an aerial situation. But that's a great tool for umpires to use to just manage the game. That goes elevated to a yellow if there is a foul that is intentional or things that have happened repeatedly. And so this is umpire's discretion, whether it's a 5 or a 10 minute suspension. And for that time, the team plays short. And then the most extreme version is our red card. So that is a game suspension. So whenever you receive the card to the end of the game, your team plays short, and then that player who received the red card is also not eligible for the next competition. So the red's pretty extreme. That's, you see those rarely, maybe one a season for a whole division. But those are really extreme examples where there's a lot of danger, intentional danger, that those will happen. These differ slightly for coaches. So those are for the field players. For coaches, a green card is a warning. There's no consequence. And then this year, for if you're a coach that receives a yellow card, it's just a really great tool because before we used to just have green cards and red cards. So as an umpire, like, well, this coach is really on my case, but I don't really want to suspend them for this game and kick them out of their next game. Now there's a yellow card for coaches where the speaking captain has to actually sit on the chair for 5 minutes, and the team plays down one player for those 5 minutes. But those now with our modern game, you see cards a lot. It used to kind of be, forbidden verboten when Mal and I were playing, but we see them all the time now. So very, very typical. And as a reminder, if there is a 10 minute yellow card with 5 minutes left in regulation and the game goes to overtime, that remaining 5 minutes of the yellow card applies in overtime. So all these cards carry over into overtime so that you would start down one or down however many players you have suspended at the moment. Did I miss anything on that one, Mal?
No, that's good. And just a little bit different than lacrosse, because I know a lot of broadcasters do multiple sports, is that these cards are not releasable. Like it doesn't matter if a team scores or anything. So yeah. So if it's 2 minutes, it's 2 minutes. If it's 5 minutes, it's 5 minutes. Even if if the other team scores, like they're non-releasable. So that's a little bit different than
Ooh, I have a question, Mel.
Yeah.
If I'm
You need to put it in the chat then, Kirsten.
Okay, I'll put it in the chat. No, if I'm a player that gets a card and I'm the person that takes strokes, like, can I take a stroke?
I'll have to look that up.
Oh man,
I would say
that just came to me.
I would look that up. It doesn't. These are that's a very.
That would never happen.
It could
Maybe.
though. It could.
But now that I've mentioned it.
But here's the thing. The only reason I think that because I mean, I know I'm going down the rabbit hole, but if the player is suspended at the end of overtime and they do go to shootouts, that player who is suspended is allowed to take a shootout. So I don't want to assume, but I'd have to look into that. But if they're allowed to do a shootout on a card, I'm not sure if they can. I don't know. I mean, to me, that's similar. So I'd have to look that up.
This is going to happen to you this season.
I
You're going to be
know,
like,
and I'm
oh
just
my
gonna,
God.
Yeah,
Thank
I'm
God I
gonna
looked it up.
First game.
Yeah. I'll find I'll phone a friend before my first game just to make sure. Yeah.
The FIH might have to rewrite the rules now.
Yeah. I'll look for it. I'm sure it's in there something, but that doesn't usually happen, but it could.
It could.
It absolutely could. Yeah. So.
All right. And video review. So we will caveat this with not every facility can do video review. So not everybody has this capability, and we'll see it mostly at the Division I level, and not everybody at the Division I level has it. So some of your NEC teams probably don't have this capability, their facility. But, for Division III, a lot of the NESCAC teams do have this capability. So it may be something you see this season. It might not be, but we wanted to just cover it quickly anyway.
Yeah, so for video review, you start the game, each team has one review. So it's a little bit different than say football. I'm not even sure how many times football can review. But so in field hockey, you have one review each, and any field player during the game can ask for a review, but the review needs to happen um anything within the 25 that is goal, no goal, corner, no corner. So it's just an example. I am an umpire. I think it hits a defender's foot inside the circle. I call corner because it was a defensive foot inside the penalty inside the corner inside the D. I'm going offensive penalty corner. A defender comes up to me, shows me the TV or the T sign, and comes up to me and she goes, "That didn't hit my foot. Can you review it? That did not hit my foot." So we would be like, "Absolutely." We would go look at the review. And depending on what views we had, hopefully we can make a decision. If not, it would be inconclusive. But say it does not hit her foot, it wasn't a corner. So they would keep that referral. So they would be able to refer something later in the game if they'd like, either offensively or defensively. So that can also go flip-flop. So it's playing and the attacker's dribbling and they think it hit a defender's foot, but we didn't see it. They come up to us immediately, they show us the T, we stop time, we ask for their question. They go, that hit the defender's foot. We go to the review, we see if it did, it didn't. If it did hit the defender's foot, they keep their review and then it'll be a corner. So basically you use it and then if you get it correct, you can use it again. But if you get it wrong, unfortunately, you lose your review as a team referral. Umpires
I would
also,
not say unfortunately, but sure.
yeah, but umpires also have umpire referrals and they are unlimited. So meaning, but we can only refer goal, no goal, or penalty stroke or no penalty stroke. And we also can look for misconduct. So if something happens off ball and there's a girl laying on the ground and people and we didn't see it, we can go back and be like, wow, did that girl just get nailed or, intentionally? So we can go for that. But umpire reviews are unlimited, meaning we can only do goal, no goal, or stroke, no stroke. So we cannot review a penalty corner, which is unfortunate because when a team loses their review, sometimes you wish you could look at something again, but you can't. So field or umpires can do stroke, no stroke, or goal, no goal. And again, for umpires, the difference is so a team, so they would come up to you with the T. We would stop clock, we would show the TV, and we would show that that's a team referral. If it's an umpire referral, we would again stop the clock, show the TV sign, and then hit our chest, meaning that's our referral. We're going to look at it. This is something that we want to look at. Um, Again, Division One level, not almost a lot of Division One conferences have it, but not all. But it's mostly a Division One level just because of the resources they have. But like as she said earlier, some Division Threes do have video review. Again, if there's only two umpires, we both would go. If you're in postseason or some of the ACC games that I have, we actually do have a video umpire, which is really nice. They would be the only ones looking at it. They give us the information, we give the information, we show what it is, and then we restart the game according to what we saw on the field.
So you're all going to see a Herculean effort here because I'm going to talk about penalty corners in 10 minutes or less.
Oh, sorry.
No. It's a lot of information to cover. Okay, so I think we've touched on it already, but what is a penalty corner? It is a set scoring opportunity for the attacking team. It is tactical, it is strategic, it uses specialized skills. Teams practice these a lot, and coaches use these a lot in their scouting, and this is a big part of the team's preparation. So, how do you get one? It is a result of a defensive infraction inside of the circle, a defender intentionally hitting the ball over the end line, or an intentional infraction inside of the 25-yard line. So you can also see umpires really advance. It was just play kind of coming into the 25, but it's a really hard intentional foul to prevent somebody from coming into the circle. They will advance that to a penalty corner. So what happens? As soon as it's a penalty corner is signaled, time is stopped up to all the attacking players, there's no real limit, can go and stand on the circle, and we call them the attacking penalty corner unit. It is an APC, an attacking penalty corner, and up to 5 defensive players can play in the goal cage. 99% of the time, a goalkeeper will also be included in that. But there are always instances where maybe they're not there because they pulled the goalkeeper. So up to 5 players can be in there, and we call that the defensive penalty corner unit, or the DPC. The ball will be inserted from the end line after the umpire blows their whistle and time resumes. So that's kind of how it gets set up. Some quirks that we talked about, Andrew talked about, time can expire during a penalty corner. If players leave before the ball is inserted, so you'll see the umpire blow the whistle to restart time. People cannot enter the circle until the inserter brings the ball into play. So you'll see people sort of break early, the umpire will stop it, and then defensive players that break early, they have to go back to the 50. Attacking players that break early, correct me if I'm wrong, Mel, the inserter has to go back to the 50, and they play with
Yes,
one less person on the circle.
correct. Yep.
We can have repeat corners, and Andrew already covered how it officially ends, but it ends with a goal, goes over the end line or over the sideline, or there's an attacking infraction and the defense gets a penalty or a free hit. Also really important for penalty corners, the height with which you can score. So this trips a lot of people up. If I hit the ball, I shoot the ball, and I have a backswing, my stick comes off the ball, the ball can only be scored below that board on the goal cage. So you might be wondering, why is that black board on all the goal cages? That is a cue for how high the ball can be when there's a backswing on a penalty corner. And we'll watch a little video to explain that. If there's no backswing, which we see a lot now with the drag flick, if there's no backswing, you can score anywhere. So you can go high into the net, you can go low, you can go anywhere. So that is really important. Sometimes we will see hit and it goes high, everybody cheers, but it's coming out because it's just too dangerous. So this is what an attacking penalty corner looks like. So we have in the pink our inserter. We have these 2 clusters at the top of the circle. We call those castles or batteries, and those include a hitter or a drag flicker and a stick stopper. On Division 3, if it's a long infield turf, you might not see a stick stopper and just see a cluster of shooters up there. And then we have these things called R1, R2, L1. Sometimes there's an L2. People play different formations, but those are usually people you can pass to, have options, or deflectors. And then typically we'll have a backup. So you can see this example here compared to what I have laid out. This is what it looks like in real time. So as we said, injects the ball. The ball has to exit the circle once before we can start to play. And the designed play is set up to try and score. So that's the attack. What does the defense look like? There's your 5 players. So we have a flyer. That's the person who runs to the top of the circle to try and disrupt the shot. To her left and farther back is what we call a trail. And then back next to the goalkeeper is what we call a post player, and they really kind of cover the goalkeeper's weak side. And then on the opposite side, on the right there with the C, we call it a cover. Some people also call it a trail, like you can have 2 trails. And all the other players on that team are back at the 50. And again, this is a designed set piece. Teams practice this a lot. People have a specialty skill that they occupy one of these positions. Obviously, they're at an extreme numbers disadvantage, so shape's really important, their body position's really important, and their whole goal is just to get the ball, and if we can, get it up to the 50 to start a counterattack. So you can see 8 players on attack up at the top of the circle. You have a backswing there. That would have to be below that backstop. Here we see the drag flick. That can go anywhere. We have options. We can go back to the inserter. So you can see all these different things. This is something that makes field hockey really unique. We have these design plays where we're looking for deflections. So you can see it go out to the stick stop, a pass, and a shot. Really nice goal. So again, design things that they work on all the time. Now, they don't always work out. You see a lot of broken corners. But they tend to, because there's such a numbers disadvantage, it can really still play to the attack. because there are so few defenders. Again, another broken corner, and we can make it work. And you can see all those players coming back from the 50 trying to help. And this is kind of the perfect scenario for a defensive penalty corner. Might have stopped here. Oh, nope. But as you can see up there, I don't know why that stopped, but perfect scenarios where the defense gets it and they pass it to the attack.
Take her word for it.
Believe me, it happens. And we can answer more questions about penalty corners if people want to stick around. But we just, as a quick snapshot, wanted everybody to kind of think about what sets field hockey apart, what makes us special and different.
First thing is the circle we talked about earlier. You can only score within the circle. The ball must be touched by the attacking team inside that attacking circle, attacking D, for it to count. One of the things that'll happen if this is your first year broadcasting, in your first game, the offensive team will push the ball forward from their own backfield. Nobody will touch it. It will go the length of the field and go in the goal, and people will cheer, and nothing will happen. It is just the ball going over the inline, the baseline, whether it was in the goal or not. It is a turnover to the defense and a 16-yard hit. So you'll want to avoid the broadcaster mistake of being so excited that a goal was scored from the length of the field. It is not a goal, I promise. Second one, we talked about also the stick. It is not an ice hockey stick. It is curved on one side, flat on the other. You have to use the flat side and the flat side only. If the ball touches the curved side, it's a back stick. It's a violation, and it's a turnover to the other team. And the last one, and something we haven't mentioned yet, there is no offsides in field hockey. If y'all watched the World Cup this summer in soccer, a lot of Americans were complaining that offsides was stupid and the game would be much better without it. Well, this is your chance to experience that. There is no offsides in hockey, in field hockey. An offensive player or players are allowed to camp out inside the circle in front of the goal or wherever their heart's content.
And we've talked about it a lot, but we call them free hits. They're not, what do they call them? Throw-ins. But it's kind of the catch-all for any foul. If we have a stoppage in play and we can restart it, we call them free hits. We have push back ? Because to start the quarter, every quarter in field hockey, we initiate play by what we call a push back. That's a holdover from our old school game, which is when that was all we could really do, was push the ball back. Now you'll see players throw an aerial into the defensive side of the field, or they'll just start with a self-start and go, 1v11 and see how it goes for them. So it's called a pushback, but it's a lot different these days. We just talked about penalty corners, but there's something that really sets our game apart. They're dramatic, they're exciting. It's, a lot of people have never seen one before. So those are really cool and special.
And then just going back over, field hockey is a game of advantage. So advantage, disadvantage, there is no foul unless a disadvantage occurred. So we try to hold our whistle as much as we can to promote flow, but sometimes we can't. In field hockey, the line, whether it's the goal line, the sideline, the baseline, the whole ball has to cross for it to be out or a goal. So on the line is still in. So that the whole ball has to cross. And we have rolling substitutions and unlimited. The only time you cannot sub is on a penalty corner.
And I've never seen actually somebody somersault in, but I mean, I guess
you could.
Time doesn't stop.
Could be an NIL deal.
It could be. And I'll say a line is in, but your body can exit the field.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. I think strokes are also a slightly different element of our game, which are really exciting. When you see one, you'll see something exciting, somebody with a specialty skill going up against goalkeeper. Again, our cards have consequences. So whenever you see one, there's definitely going to be a change in the dynamic. And then finally, field hockey also is one of the best podcasts in the world. Pitch Session is a really important, exciting part of our game, and you should all listen and follow along.
And then last, a few do's and don'ts. We have more don'ts than do's because no one wants to be told what to do, so we'll tell you what not to do. Don't make calls for the umpire. One of the biggest things, and just talked about, is advantage. So you'll be broadcasting a game and you will see that it hits a defender's foot. And just like we've all done watching any other sport, the incredulous, how could you miss that? They didn't miss it. They're letting the game go, trying, everyone says there's too many whistles. They're doing their very best not to blow the whistle when they don't have to. And in that same vein, let the action play out. That is what the umpire is doing. And they have the ability to hold their whistle and call the infraction that happened 4, 6, 8 seconds ago if needed. Don't explain every whistle because it's impossible. There's a lot, especially as you're new at this, you're not going to know whether it was an obstruction or this or that. Stick to the basics and you'll be much better off. Avoiding crossover terms. This is something that people use as a crutch. Field hockey is not ice hockey. It is not soccer. There are not power plays. If there's a green card and someone is off for 2 minutes, that is not called a power play. It's a penalty corner. It's not a corner kick. Anything like that. So please try and stick to the right hockey terminology. And along with that, don't compare it to other sports. As Kirsten said a lot, field hockey is a unique game with unique rules. And it is a trap that we all fall into. But comparing it, and the two it gets compared to the most, of course, are soccer and field hockey, and then a little bit of lacrosse. And you want to be careful with that because, one, you're going to take the hockey heads that are watching your broadcast and you're going to upset them. But also, it's its own sport. So it's important to learn the terminology and get it right as much as you can.
Yes, I would say if you are on this, if you're on this webinar, then you have joined our coalition of the willing to bring field hockey to everyone. It's the best sport ever. So, like, make it be the coolest dynamic sport, and don't bring us down by comparing us to lacrosse, please. We beg you. And I would say probably the biggest one that we hear from lacrosse is the crease. It is not the crease. Never say the crease. Don't ever, please, ever say the crease or the paint. It is the circle. It's the D. But yeah, so that's that.
That's field hockey. You're now an expert.
Hockey. We had a couple questions. So I will answer this one. Someone asked, at some point, can you talk about players, offensive or defense, playing behind the goalie in just open play? So for both for on attack, that is allowed. You can go behind the goalkeeper. That's no issue. I would say it's not really to your advantage to do it on either the attack or the defense. So when you see players behind the goalkeeper, especially if they're a defender, it is a bit of a crutch. I will borrow Andrew's term. So maybe there's a lack of trust in the goalkeeper. Maybe they're taking a lot of pressure. If you see players that have a lot of defensive saves, I would wager that they find themselves behind the goalkeeper pretty often. It takes a player out of the play. It changes your number scenarios. So it's not something you want to see a lot. But I do think we see it when there's maybe a lot of pressure happening or maybe some things have broken down. And then attacking wise, I don't think you see goalkeeper or attacking players behind the goalkeeper. You will see them at the far post and goal scoring positions. We call it extending the cage as a way to just kind of make it a little bit easier on the shooting player to have an ability to get a deflection or something like that. So I hope that answered your question. We were asked that. And I can't remember. There was another one that was about like
how much time is between overtime and shootouts? It's 2 minutes. No, it's 5 minutes. It's 5 minutes.
Is that right, Mel? From
what's that?
From
time between overtime and shootouts. It's usually 5 minutes on the clock, right?
Between overtime and shootouts, yes. Yeah.
And
it's 2 minutes between both overtime sessions, and then for the D2 and D3, and then it would be another, yeah. But honestly, usually it's not 5 minutes. They usually just kind of, there's not really like a lot of times they don't even like put the time on the clock before a shootout. They just, the whole teams just kind of come and go about with the 50 and so.
And someone asked, so this person asked, in Division 1, will they change sides of the field midway through the overtime period? A couple of things. Division 1, now they will be in a 15-minute overtime period, 1. And then, so Mal, will they change sides?
Yeah, we'll still do a flip. So at the end of the game, we'll bring in the captains and we'll say, do you want whoever wins, they have the decision to take the ball, like possession or direction. So that could have them flip. It might not, for Division 1. So they could switch ends. Sometimes they'd rather go towards one umpire than the other, or the sun's a factor. There's a lot of different variables that can happen. But for D2 and D3 for overtime, we start with the flip after the first sudden victory overtime, and then if it's still tied, then they would switch. Yeah.
So the coin flip, the players then determine which
Yes.
side they play on. Right.
Yep.
Yes. All right. Any other questions or clarifications if we went too fast over something or it caused some confusion? Feel free to ask in the Q&A or the chat. We'll hang out for like a couple more minutes. Yeah. And I don't know if we said it, but the shootouts, you have 8 seconds to score. I feel like I always forget that.
Yeah, and the
8 seconds.
offender has to start in the very center of the 25. They're not allowed to start offset. They have to start in the very center of the 25. And the goalie starts on the base, on the goal line. Her feet have to be on the goal line. And then the whistle blows, and the player, anytime within that 8 seconds, if they get a rebound, they can shoot again, but the ball has to cross, the whole ball has to cross before the 8 seconds, but they could get multiple shots if it happens quickly.
Cool. Well, I would encourage everybody to watch the World Cup. I think the US games are going to be streaming on CBS, which is
They're
pretty
gonna be on. They're
exciting.
gonna be on linear TV.
Linear. You can watch it on the television. And as we were talking, if your introduction to field hockey is JV, junior high, yes, this is kind of a tedious sport. But when you watch it at the highest level, which is our international game, you will experience the magic of field hockey. It is wild and dramatic and fast and interesting. So definitely encourage you to watch that. It starts on the 15th. The US is playing Argentina, which is a big regional rival for us. So that will be good. Yeah, and download the toolkit and revisit this and come to 201 if you want to learn a little bit more. That's tomorrow at noon.
All right.
Thank you. Great job. Great expertise. And if you all need anything from the NFHCA for sports information leaders out there, please reach out. We have a resource page. We will be working alongside you all season. So thank you, Kirsten, Andrew, and Mal. You guys did an excellent job. And we hope to see you back for 201 tomorrow.